Good evening and welcome to our Pittsford Central School District Board of Education meeting. Can you please join us for standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have a motion for approval of the agenda? That's Renee and Kim. Thank you. All in favor? None opposed? That motion carries. So next is a wonderful time of year, and we appreciate all of you for recognizing our board service. So we would like to ask for anyone present who would like to please come at this time to the mic. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Carrie Hoffman. I am the president of POP, which stands for Pittsford Educational Office Professional and School Aides. Our association would like to recognize the significance of all the duties and responsibilities that our board members assume who volunteer time, effort, knowledge, and support our district staff, students, and employees. The leadership and commitment you each bring to the numerous meetings and events that bring the vision and growth of our opportunities for students and staff to life. We appreciate all the time that you give to everyone here in district. In grateful recognition of the service that board members provide to Pittsford Central Schools, our POP unit has made a monetary donation to the Student Opportunity Fund on the board's behalf.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Carrie and POP.
We're honoring you. You might as well sit. Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Warshel, the Pittsford District Teachers Association Executive Vice President. I'm here representing the nearly 800 members of the PDTA. We want to express our heartfelt gratitude and say thank you for supporting what we do as educators. We are in awe of the countless hours you dedicate to this volunteer position to benefit all of us within the PCSD and Pittsford community. As we learned at the leadership retreat this summer, culture is not something you are, it's something you do. Here within PCSD, you all model these attributes through advocacy, collaboration, and ability to build safety, both relationally and physical spaces. You do all of this through the lens of our established purpose, which always has our students and staff at the forefront. To show our appreciation, members of the executive committee have written personalized messages to you that are at your seats, and PDTA has pledged to make a donation in your honor to both the Pittsford Education Foundation and Pittsford Youth Services. Happy Board Appreciation Week, everybody.
Thank you.
Good evening. Stephanie took my speech. So on behalf of the Pittsford District Administrative Association, we just wanted to thank you for all of the volunteer hours that you put in to help our schools and our administrators, our students and our families. We see you at everything, you support us throughout everything, and we really appreciate all that you do for us. On behalf of our association, we too have made a monetary donation to the Pittsford Student Opportunity Fund, and there are handwritten notes at your desk or at your table as well. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Principal Julian.
Hi, I'm Barb Shapiro. I'm Vice President of the Pittsford District Retired Teachers Association. And on behalf of our more than 700 active retirees, we want to thank you on their behalf for all that you do. Even though we're not working anymore, we are very appreciative of the respect and the care that you've shown to us over the years, and we don't take that for granted. We're also very grateful for the fact that you serve board as representing the students, the staff, the families of Pittsford, but you do it all with the lens of what is best for the students. You don't sit on the board with personal agendas, and the little bit that that I know. I'm sure there's way more that I don't know of all that you do and the hours that you spend in this volunteer position. We couldn't be more grateful. You should be thanked more often, not just this once a week during the year, but we want to say how appreciative we are and grateful. We also have a little letter to each of you and a little token of our appreciation, but we've also this year made a monetary donation in your honor to the PDTA Scholarship Fund. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Barb and PGRTA.
Good evening. I'm Meredith Graham here on behalf of the Pittsford Central PTSA. I would like to take this opportunity to thank each of the 7 Pittsford community members who serve on our Board of Education. For a few of you, your commitment to the Pittsford Central School District began through your dedication and volunteerism within Pittsford Central PTSA and has continued to flourish in your current roles as Board of Education members. We appreciate and are so grateful for the partnership that PTSA has with the Board of Education. The countless hours that the Board of Education spends listening, learning, and engaging with our community to best meet the needs of our students does not go unnoticed. Thank you for the courage, dedication, and a commitment to upholding a vision of excellence for the Pittsford Central School District. In your honor, Pittsford Central PTSA has pledged a donation to the Pittsford Education Foundation in support of your commitment to the success of all of the students in Pittsford. Thank you. And I hope you enjoy this week of appreciation.
Thank you. Thank you. We thank you all so much. We thank you for your support and collaborative spirit. Next, we will have our principal's report. Ms. Melissa Julian from Minden High School.
Good evening. So we're typically at the tail end of the year, so I revamped a lot of things to do the start of the year to tell you what we're planning to do this year. So this was done with input from Laura Hefner and Andrea Lynch, our 2 assistant principals, and then our ILT team and different department leaders. So this year we are once again focusing on our strategic initiative around engaging students in the learning by increasing our rigor and authenticity in the classroom. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like by using hub activities or instructional moves. We're constantly working on practices that create a warm and affirming environment. At Minden High School, we've done that the last 7-8 years. And then curriculum and dynamic structures that require integrative thinking and a global perspective, because one of the things we know is that our students don't live in isolation. They're a much more connected society than ever before, so we need to teach them the skills to do that and engage in those really good conversations that will help them get there. Our focus for this year, taking the lead from the work we did over the summer at the retreat, was to work through the culture code a little bit, but primarily focus on building safety, both from a physical and social emotional well-being, where we are constantly telling our staff and students that we all belong here. Without you, there's a missing piece. We started that with our class meetings that we hold the first week of school, where we made sure to remind our students that without them, Minden High is not the same. And so every single person in the seat makes a difference. We talked about sharing vulnerability. We have been taking more risks, and one of the nice things that I've seen in our classroom so far is our staff are taking more risks when they're doing something where we're observing them, particularly using maybe in a new instructional move that they haven't used before. And then we are working on establishing our purpose, that we are here for a reason, and what is that reason? So our ILT is really digging into the culture code. We're doing, we've chunked it, so we're reading segments of it together as a team, and then we're working through it to figure out exactly how do we continue to build these 3 pieces at Minden High School. We have a lot of great groundwork already established, but as we bring new members on, especially with things like our ILT, we have new members joining our ILT because we have retirees and that sort of thing. We want to make sure that we're reloading, rebuilding every time. So that's a little bit about what we've been up to and where we are going for this school year. As you can see, we had a great pep rally for our homecoming that happened a few weeks ago. The kids really dug in, and really they really get into the color wars. It's a lot of fun that day. It's also very messy. So one of the things we work on is our physical safety. As you know, we did upgrade our front entryway, and we've also changed a lot of procedures around our front entryway, particularly when it comes to things like lunch dismissal and then students leaving for early dismissal or late arrival. So one of the things we used to do at Mendon is students could go out any door they wanted. Now they have to go out the front door, and they have to re-enter through the front door. It's a work in progress. We are working through that because it's a change in practice. But that way we know who's coming and who's going. We can see kids coming in and out safely. We know who's coming into the building. And we can also monitor where they're leaving from and when they're leaving, and making sure they really have lunch dismissal, because that was one of the things we are constantly looking for. In addition, last year I had the opportunity to go to BOCES and learn more about the emergency reunification plans. And so as I was sitting at that training, and then as we brought it back to the district, we found some holes in what we have typically done in the past around our emergency evacuations and drills and procedures. We have been tightening those up. So what we've done in each classroom, you'll see our cell phone holders, but next to it, you'll see there's a red binder. Each classroom has a red binder. The binder system has people's attendance rosters for each period the room is in use. And then in addition, it has a card in there that's green and yellow. So green means we're all set in this line. Yellow means we need help. We took a lot from our elementary friends, to be honest with you. But in addition, we have these cards that now say the name of the room, the amount of students they're supposed to have, any students that they have extra, or any students they have missing. And then when they go outside now, they're actually, we're getting there, but they're standing in lines, they're listening, it looks very similar to what we used to see at elementary, which has been a bit of a challenge for high school students to actually remember that piece. But we're getting there, and we're really super excited about it. Things are going much faster than they were at the beginning of the year, and we're getting really good at reconciling the attendance piece. So in addition to that, safety from a social emotional standpoint, because we know they go together, kids can't learn unless they feel safe. So we've revamped our 9th grade seminar. We've always done a freshman seminar for kids when they come in and transition, and in the past it's been the first 6 to 7 weeks of school. What they do there is they meet with a teacher in a small group, or 2 teachers in a small group of 10 to 15 students from 9th grade. They then work through different systems protocols, for example, getting to know one another, working with a link crew leader, getting information about homecoming and pep rally and school spirit, meeting with the counselors to talk about wellness and study skills, and then the administrators would go in and do a circle with each of them so we could get to know them a little bit. We've revamped it, and we're using our win time now to use that, so no student has to lose a study hall, is what really it comes down to. And in the win time now we have 6 weeks, however, it's not all in a row. So we've spaced it out across the first semester, so now we can identify peak times in the year where it makes more sense for the counselors to do something around study skills, right? So typically it happens right around the mid-semester break where they're starting to struggle, right? Because they have a lot of assessments and things coming up. So that has really been so far so good. Our IST spearheaded that effort, and our instructional support team spearheaded that effort with their team coming together between both sides of the alphabet, and they pushed for that with our instructional leadership team, and we think it's good progress so far. We'll let you know next year. And then our student-led activity fair is always amazing. This year we had 80-plus clubs in attendance, which is a lot. So that allows students to really find any sort of club or activity, and yet we still have a couple clubs that have come in that are new because they didn't exist before. So you still have that opportunity for kids who need to find that little connection to do so. Okay. Engaging authentic and rigorous instruction. This is something we're always trying to do more of at Mendon. It's something that our teachers really take to heart and really try to provide opportunities for both that authentic learning piece and then how to continue to increase the rigor and the engagement in the classroom. A number of our math teachers in the upper left-hand corner have gone to some training where they have been working through thinking classrooms in maths, particularly where kids get up and are moving and are at whiteboards, vertical whiteboards, and are doing much more discussion and much more work rather than I do, or I do, we do, you do. It's very much everybody does, and let's take a look at it. The conversation has been truly rich, and the things the kids are talking about really are math skills that are amazing to hear them talk through. Our technology program is still second to none, and the work that they're doing, even though it's been hard to find people to fill those areas, the work that they're doing there has been preparing kids for really life after high school. And I would invite all of you to come out in June for our cardboard boat races if you haven't seen them yet. That's the epitome of our tech program. It's amazing. We're going to try to stream it, so we'll also give you that link. But you can see our physics teachers down in the left hand are doing more with vectors and different things, and they're really trying to bring it to life so kids can really understand how to utilize the skills that they'll use later on in life. So that's where we continue to grow, and we're very excited about the work we're doing at Mendon, because again, you can't get there without going back to here and really making sure people feel safe and supported in the classroom. So, as we always tell the kids, take a healthy risk, do something new and different every year, try a different club, try a different class, do something different. So this is what we've asked them to do this year. Thank you.
I would just add to Melissa, Andrea, and Laura, and to all the staff at Mendon High School. I've seen firsthand multiple opportunities for students both in the classroom, outside the classroom. I've seen multiple interventions that take place. I've also seen how complex high school is today and how it is to navigate as a administrator and as a teacher with both the social component coming in, the political component coming in, the behaviors that are very all over the place. And you always at Mendon have had a student first perspective, and it's greatly appreciated, and it's acknowledged and seen in the work that you do with parents, with students, with investigations, with research, with time and commitment, and I can't thank you enough for all you do at Mendon High School.
Thank you.
Oh, we don't want to do that. I'm not done yet. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just for any that don't know me, I'm Jeff Beardsley, Director of Operations, Maintenance, and Security for Pittsford Schools. Been here about 20 years. Been quite a while. Mendon High School alumni. And I think everyone that knows me, I get really excited talking about construction and infrastructure and gym floors and all that kind of fun stuff. Just going to give you an overview of some of the stuff we did with the maintenance department over the summer. It doesn't include our capital construction projects or some of the energy performance contracts that we're looking at, some of the outside work, but this is mostly our crews with construction. So we do operate and maintain about 1.35 million square feet of facilities. We have 9 schools, 11 buildings, 23 structures, about 205 acres of property. Just kind of gives you a background of how much square footage we do have. As far as staffing, we have 24 full-time employees when we're fully employed. Been a little challenged with with staff shortages, but we've done pretty well. So we do have head of maintenance, Dan Fersman, who's just wonderful to work with. I work very closely with Dan and Mike Vespi. Mike Michelli is our grounds foreman, and we have very competent staff. We have electricians, plumbers, mechanical, HVAC, carpenter, locksmiths, painters. We completed about 545 work orders over the summer. A work order, again, can be a project or a single work item. So they're submitted throughout the year, and when they're approved, we use a program called QWare, so anyone can submit a work order. We gauge the need of it, the priority, when it can be accomplished, budgetary concerns also. So lots of work orders we get. Some of the summer work that we did, and again, I'm just going to touch on these cooperative services with the town and village, I can't stress enough. We have an intermunicipal work agreement with the village of Pittsford and the town of Pittsford, and we really work seamlessly with them. If they need help, we supply manpower, backhoes, whatever they need, and vice versa also. It's really a great relationship to have. It also saves the taxpayers a lot of money because we don't have to go out and buy some of the big equipment, some of the sewer trucks and some of that kind of stuff. And if we have a sewer backup or anything, they just are immediately over here with support, helping us out, trying to get schools back open. So, again, some of the other stuff, handheld radio repairs, all that kind of good stuff. We have a lot of inspections through the schools. We basically inspect everything. So playground inspections, we're in August. Fire inspections are going to be, they were in March. They're going to be in February this year. Every 11 months we get them. We get NYSER is our insurance company. They come through and do inspections and look at risk and also code issues within. I mean, you can kind of see from bleachers to man lifts to asbestos inspections. Every 6 months we have an asbestos inspection, and every 3 years we have a larger one. Boilers, Ansel systems, which are kitchen hoods and everything. So basically you can kind of see we inspect just about everything throughout the schools. Moving jobs or grounds crews, along with everyone. We just moved the PTSA today from the barn over to Nazareth for the super sale. Cleaning grease traps. I mean, just slurry sealing. We did some slurry sealing, which is really oil and stone on our pavement areas, which maintains our pavement. We not only crack fill to seal all the cracks through, we slurry seal to extend the life of our pavement areas. We did that at Jeff Road, Mendon Center, Thornell Road. We do a whole bunch of flooring throughout the district. We try and hit a little bit of all the buildings and replace any flooring that is old. It really works magic with air quality and just the look of our schools. Preventative maintenance on HVAC systems. We change all our filters every 6 months, so we go through all those over the summer. Not a whole lot of irrigation, which was nice this summer. Yeah, just kind of looking down through pool maintenance. We do still have 2 pools. Field markings, all that kind of good stuff. I think a great way to kind of show what we do is by pictures. So this presentation is pretty heavy on pictures, just to give you some visuals of what we do. Again, these are just some of our crews. We do have 2 HVAC technicians. We have a carpenter in the upper right-hand corner. Noy is actually doing some lock work. We have a locksmith. So we do all our keying and locks, and allows us to change locks and or replace locks, or if a lock gets jammed or anything, we can do that very quickly in-house. Some of the casework that we build, I try not to build stuff that we can necessarily buy, like desks and stuff, but as far as shelving, custom shelving, mailboxes, that kind of stuff, some of our schools are pretty tricky, and it's always nice to be able to build something in-house for classrooms or just for places to put stuff. Even from finishing kitchen countertops, we don't have to replace them. We can come in and do some of the work ourselves on that. Whiteboards, of course, just again, we go through, we try to replace whiteboards as they get dirty or damaged, that kind of stuff throughout, chalkboards, all sorts of stuff throughout the rooms. Mendon High School, the upper right-hand picture is the swimmer changing room over at Mendon. We work closely with Mr. Piro and Mr. Vespi and our architects and engineers, and we're able to, you see at the bottom picture, get some new benches and new cabinet work in there, and we're wrapping the walls and doing new ceiling and lights and all sorts of stuff in there to kind of shine it up. And then we noticed how bad the floor was, so the picture on the right side over this summer, we were able to kind of find a picture. I worked with Patrick Irving pretty long on that, trying to find a floor that would fit nicely in there, and it just looks beautiful in there. We also did new LED lights in the Mendon High School pool. We also got a new scoreboard in the Mendon High School pool. So a lot of the stuff that we do, just helping out behind the scenes, we actually changed these lights. We went and worked with Mr. Vespi and changed them. And I know the board was over there for a tour recently. Actually, since that time, we've gotten all the ones over the bleachers replaced also to LED. So as we move through. We did do some gym upgrades at several of the elementary schools. This is Thornell Road Elementary School. You can kind of see some of the dark vertical yellow spots. That was from the old basket that we took off. These are new baskets. We're getting new wall pads. We already completed those at Park Road and Jefferson Road Elementary School, and Mendon Center and Thornell Road are next. So we're kind of waiting to paint behind the new baskets, side baskets, until we do the wall mats, because there's always some touch-up paint there too. So just give you some examples. Some of the things you don't think about behind the scenes: pool filtration. They actually use sand. So this is Calkins Road Middle School. You can kind of see on the upper left, that's the filtration tank. They recommend every 5 years or 7 years to go through in that time frame. It's hard to find people to do that these days. But you go through and vacuum all the sand out, replace all the sand, you get new filtration. It's a lot more work than it looks in those pictures. Just some of the flooring that we've done: Thornell Road Elementary School Library. These are actually carpet squares that we've been kind of moving towards, which are easier to replace if you get damage. So those are very nice, but it just looks wonderful in there. Things you don't think about: the Lom Building roof hatch. We're getting a little bit of a leak up there, so you go up and find that things have just disintegrated. So we built a new hatch and put some membrane over the top and resecured that. No more leaks. Some fencing on the left-hand side. Our fence did fall in a windstorm. That was earlier in the, at the end of winter, springtime. And then just showing how we kind of just replaced. We didn't do the whole thing. We may have to address that, but just getting things back in our back paths to the schools. Pavement repairs. A lot of times when there's a pavement issue, it's an underlying issue, a pipe or something down underneath. Can even be a sewer. In this case, it was. So just kind of pulling down underneath water lines. I think this was a water line, excuse me. But there's more pictures in here. So, just saw cutting the pavement, digging that up, going through. This is right outside of Park Road School. This was a sewer issue. You get a sinkhole and going through, so we have to kind of dig all that up and then just kind of get a patch on top of there. This is the oil and stone slurry seal, just kind of an example. What they do, they come through and basically put a coating on the pavement, spread it all around. It turns the pavement very dark. Then we come after and reline the parking lot, and it just extends the life of the asphalt, which is very important. I work closely with Mr. Vespi in the spring and identifying some of our RTUs, which are actually rooftop units. For replacement, HVAC systems up on top of the roofs that actually, fans that actually suck the air out and give us that air quality. At Mendon Center Elementary School, Mendon High School, and the transportation facility, we were able to work cooperatively with our contracts, save a lot of money by doing that, and work with them to get some of these units replaced. We actually have to lift them with cranes, get them up there, new curbing, new roofing around them. Some of the things that you just don't think of, repair of bike racks, vehicle and equipment, all of our grounds tools. I will mention that this summer we had purchased a battery-operated electric trimmer, a blower, and a push lawnmower for Park Road School for our custodial crews. So in the courtyards and directly around the building, they tend to work pretty good. We got pretty good reviews on them. So we actually reached out and purchased those for our other elementary schools. So a little quieter, better air quality, that kind of thing. So we're going to keep on testing those as we move forward. And let's see where the technology goes for our grounds department. Playground mulch. We always are very attentive to our playgrounds. So not only playground inspections, but CPSC requires 9 inches of compacted engineered wood fiber, which is basically a technical term for mulch. And there to the right-hand side is some of the battery-operated equipment that we had purchased. I had to include this. When I walk through the schools and I see how teachers and staff and some of the kids write really nice notes to our custodial staff and maintenance staff, and people are just really great about that. It makes our staff feel wanted, and it really meant a lot to them. So I just took a picture of this. Just thank yous from different people, and the kids wrote really neat things about the custodial staff. This was over at Jeff Road School. The right-hand side, this is actually a playground inspector. I have these kids' full attention. I was explaining to them the importance of not pulling off all my stickers on there that say, you know, you can get caught, it gets hot. All my warning stickers, so they were very attentive. This was just wonderful. Don Howe, our state inspector, took this, and I had to include it because I kind of looked over and I had their full attention. It was wonderful. Security, just touching on that, I think we all know about the capital project. We went through all 9 schools, again, working with our whole crew on upgrading our camera systems over the last year and a half, adding cameras throughout our school continuously, and just kind of upgrading our whole system. It really works nicely, and we've got a lot of very high visible cameras now. Emergency buttons in all the schools, which we have. Again, we work closely. We have an emergency services team meeting that I attend quarterly, which is the town, the village, sheriff's department, fire department, ambulance, town, village. Everyone kind of comes together and we just talk about experiences, what's happening in Pittsford, which we find very valuable because you can really understand what's happening in the community from them. And we also share our events and stuff that's going out, any support that we need. Always offering them to come on our property and have some coffee because we love it when they come to our sites. And also we have programmed all their badges, not only the Brighton Police Department for Elm Creek, but also Monroe County Sheriff's Department. So they have, via their ID badges, full access to our schools 24/7. So they can get into any school using their badges on our systems. Just a little bit more about the area of assembly doors. Over the last 2 years, we've been updating these. These are our gymnasiums, auditoriums, any large area that we call an area of assembly. This room specifically here too, you can see the new doors, the new locks on those doors that allows us to quickly lock a door from the inside that has panic hardware on it. So any area of assembly by code requires people to be able to egress out of that space. Classrooms we already have intruder locks on them. These were mostly our large areas of assembly. So we were able to, I think there's like 5 or 6 doors still left, but we are getting to the end of that, and it's been just wonderful. We did a lot of upgrades on our doors too. This is Menin High School gymnasium that they are doing. And again, just a sampling, but very proud of our maintenance department. We get around quite a bit. We address many, many issues. We just lost power at Mendon High School a little bit earlier and got Dan right over there. Within 10 minutes, we had it back on. So any questions from the board? I know we tour the buildings. Every month we go on a tour and bring you into some of the control centers and some of the nice areas of the school. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Jeff, I think it's so important for people to understand the things that you did not even show as pictures. So the amount of loyalty from your staff to come in and work overtime during times of need or concern. You answer your phone when I call at 3 in the morning. We've met at several schools in the middle of the night.
Yes, we have.
You're available 24/7. You are always responsive to whatever our needs are in the district.
Thank you.
I could not imagine having anyone else at the helm than you, and your staff has been incredible. So thank you for all you do.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
This is one of our favorite presentations, so we appreciate it. Next, may I have a motion for approval of the September 10 minutes? That will be Dave and Sarah. All in favor? All opposed? None. That carries. Thank you. And next we'll see some Board of Education notations. We have several. We all are assigned to different committee associations at our MCSBA, and so of course I attended our board leadership, and our next meeting is coming up in November. Information Exchange Committee. We have representatives there, and we are very engaged with MCSBA. From our District Operations Committee, we would like to hear from Emily Kay as a liaison there.
Sure. Sarah, Kim, and I attended the district operations in September, which was hosted by the Greece superintendent, assistant superintendent, and a principal from one of their high schools to talk about their cell phone policy. So they started in the fall of 2022 using the Yonder magnetic pouches to enforce a full ban during the school day on electronic devices. So that includes smartwatches, smartphones, all of that sort of thing. They created the policy because their student survey data and their disciplinary data were telling sort of the same story that we've heard before. There were a lot of mental health issues as well as a lot of severe behavioral issues in their schools, and they figured they had to try something with the cell phones. And so overall, they believe that their new policy greatly improved the school culture for the kids and the teachers at all 6 of the secondary schools, so middle schools and high schools. The kids are self-reporting better mental health, higher levels of engagement with their schoolwork. Their measures of academic achievement are also improving. One of the statistics they gave me that sort of stood out was in 2021, the year before they implemented it, they were at an average, as usual, 85% of their incoming freshmen had 1 high school credit. And then this year, coming into 2024, that number was at 97%. The Greece administrators also have seen a sharp reduction in office referrals for sort of the big behaviors like skipping class, defiance, substance abuse, physical fights, those sort of disruptive behaviors. The one other thing that stood out to me was that the principal noted that the teachers that she worked with liked the Yonder pouches because they felt it sort of took the negotiation out of enforcement. It didn't put the burden on them to take the cell phone out of the kids' hands. Kim and Sarah, do you have anything that I missed?
The only other thing was the idea that some students might put an unusable phone a dummy phone in the Yonder pouch, but then if they had another phone out during the day, it was an automatic takeaway. So using a second or trying to fool the system didn't really work in their favor, that there was still a very clear disciplinary outline for what to do.
Yeah, and they did also mention, especially during the first year, they sort of had to work through special exceptions. So, kids with diabetes that use their cell phone to keep track of their medical. And of course, those sort of exceptions are a part of things. And you can't say absolutely no, but overall they seemed pleased. That's what I would say.
Yes, sir.
I would also just add that we have started the conversation with the Board of Education around what do we do with cell phones in our schools. And that was prompted by a few different things. One was the governor potentially coming down with legislation that may alter or ban cell phones in school. 2, we have seen behaviors and distractions and other indicators that we are concerned about relative to cell phones within the schools. And so we've been doing a lot of our own research. Recently we had a board retreat and we brought in 3 administrators, elementary, middle, and high school, to hear their perspective of what's happening with cell phones in the schools. So we're still formulating where we want to go with this. So where I would say that we are in the information gathering part of the process, and soon we'll outwardly share a process for how to make a decision relative to cell phone use. So right now within the board, we are learning together. We're looking at research together. We're talking to administrators together. Soon we'll be reaching out to expand that a little bit broader. But I think the Greece is an example that would reflect a lot of the research that we've been reading as well.
Thank you, Superintendent Pirro. So from our legislative committee, we have Sarah Pelusia. Well, we're very we're thrilled to have Sarah again as our legislative chair of the Monroe County School Boards Association. So thank you, Sarah.
Robin. Thanks. Just real quick, I wanted to talk about our position papers for MCSBA for this year. So we have been gathering information from all of our districts to try to see what the top priorities will be across the county. And taking the 13 papers that we had from last year, we have a committee that we've now formed to review those papers and look at some possible considerations for new papers for this year. Foundation aid is certainly a big topic for all of us, so we're looking to revamp the paper that we already have out there with some new data and information on that. Also, electric buses, we've been looking at that for the past couple years now, knowing that the governor's mandate is coming in the not so distant future now. So now we have a little bit more data than we had last year and a little bit more direction. So we're going to be revamping that paper as well. And then the topic of cell phones, as Mike just said, we've heard from the governor's office that she is looking, and she's kind of in her information stage right now of gathering information from across the state on what she might recommend for a policy if it came to that. And so we're looking at that as maybe not a position paper, but just another opportunity to speak to local control that we really like to have. And being able to have our own input and flexibility in any type of policy that might be crafted based on what works best for our district in Pittsford and as the county for all of the districts within MCSBA. So again, our committee will meet next week and we will have the papers ready to review and hopefully use in December.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So do we have any other reports? Or anyone who would like to say anything?
Yeah, go ahead.
Kim? Okay. Yes.
Mike, are you ready? Okay. So I'm presenting for the Audit Oversight Committee. We met on October 2nd. Tom Zuber, the district external auditor, joined the meeting and provided a summary of the district's external audit for the 23-24 school year. He presented an unqualified opinion, which means the auditor had no concerns with our audit. And in summary, the district's financial statements are very positive. Additional sales tax, interest earnings, and transportation aid, along with BOCES aid, helped to boost revenues last year. And the use of federal stimulus funds also helped to offset total spending in the general fund, resulting in a higher fund balance at the end of the year. And this is very good news. However, federal stimulus funds, as we know, were fully spent September 30th, 2024, and the district does not expect any additional funds in the future. Since the district earned additional revenue and was very conservative in spending the overall budget, most existing reserve funds were increased to offset future expenses and to account for current liabilities. Notably, the capital reserve and transportation reserve funds were increased to prepare for future capital projects and the eventual purchase of electric buses, because we know it's coming. As in years past, the external auditors review business office process and procedure items as part of the overall audit. And this year, the auditor recommended some procedural enhancements to payroll. Many of the district's payroll operations rely on paper submissions. The recommendation is to consider automating the process to increase accuracy, and the administration has already implemented a corrective plan and is exploring different software options to become more efficient. And as a reminder, all of us will be asked to approve the annual audit report as well as the corrective action plan later in the meeting this evening. Additionally, the claims auditor reviewed a report on the status of district payments and no significant findings were presented. And it should be further noted that Mr. Vespi provided all of us an update on the status of all reserve fund accounts, which we thank you for. And our next meeting is scheduled for December 4th.
Thank you. That's our committee, Audit Oversight Committee Chair, Renee. We appreciate that information. Next dates to remember. On November 7th, there's a board visit tour at Thornell Road Elementary School. By a show of hands, may I have those who can attend? Thank you so much. And our schools are closed for Veterans Day on November 11th, and on November 12th is our next regularly scheduled meeting. So next we will hear from Mr. Vespi, our financial report.
Yes, thank you very much. First for your consideration is the acceptance of the treasurer's reports. The June treasurer's report is always this month after the audit, and so you can see that that's a summary of really the general audit itself. It shows general fund revenues exceeded budget, and then again, we spent about 95% of our overall budget because of the offset of federal stimulus funds. So that's kind of laid out here. The school lunch program, and we get into this detail when we review the audit, actually had an operating profit of $163,000, which I thought was really good considering, kind of off to a slower start. We tried new foods, and we were finally fully staffed for the first time in a few years. So that did very well. And then I think, as previously stated, our reserve status was enhanced. In July, the only thing to note is that we're immediately and aggressively investing our funds now that we're part of that 3+1 program. And so our interest earnings began the year at plus $159,000, so that was pretty good, double than what it was in the prior year. And we'll continue to be aggressive in terms of our investment activities. And then in August, obviously cash flow is a little lacking, but we still did pretty well, 133,000 interest earnings. And then we get a little offset in terms of aid, and then some of the billings that we sent out at the end of the year came in. So we're now in the process of receiving substantial tax flow from tax payments as people pay their tax bills, and nothing really to report in terms of school lunch. So that kind of gives you the summary of the treasurer's reports, obviously very detailed in each of the reports, but just kind of the bigger picture items for general fund.
Thank you, Mr. Besby. So may I have a motion for acceptance of the treasurer's report, June, July, and August? That's Sarah and Emily. All in favor? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Next for your consideration is the fourth quarterly extra classroom activity report. I can relate to what Melissa said about 80 clubs, because if you look through the fourth quarter, you can see the amount of money that flows through the high school funds. Sutherland about $142,000 in overall disbursements with an ending balance of $71,000, and then Mendon, it looks like $126,000 overall in disbursements with a balance of about $106,000. So there's a lot of clubs and activities. You can see the money that flows through. The most important thing to note is the training that Rachel Smith does in terms of our advisors. But you have the record of all the transactions, but it just goes to show the tremendous opportunities that our students have. When you look at these extra classroom activity funds and just to get, one student engaged in an activity, it makes a huge difference. So I focus more on the activity and the opportunities and make sure that the accounting piece of this is in good shape.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the fourth quarterly extra classroom activities report? It would be from Kim and Renee. All in favor? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Next for your consideration is the external audit report and management letter resolution. As previously stated, as previously reported, unqualified opinion, district performed very well. Especially proud that we do talk about our reserves, and I take every opportunity at the board meetings to talk about those. They are posted online at our website. We've updated the PowerPoint, the rationale behind it, and the discussion. That concludes my report.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the external audit report and management letter resolution? That will be from Emily and Dave. Are there questions? Hearing none, all in favor? None opposed. That carries. Thank you.
Okay, next for your consideration is the Pittsford external audit report and the response. This has to be separate. It has to be dated. There has to be due dates that we send in, and then tomorrow I'll submit this into the State Education Department. So this letter kind of summarizes what's here. When you look at the automation of payroll operations and business office operations, and you look towards the transition from this paper model to electronic, it requires really all of the assistance from our bargaining unit representatives and their patients. And so far with some of our larger groups, there's been really a collaborative, cooperative process. And we're going to take it slow, but eventually we do need to move to that automation, especially as most of our world becomes automated. I listened today about how many Zelle transactions take place through, Bank of America's reporting mechanism compared to previous years. So we continue to move in that direction. School districts are also going to move in that direction from a financial operations standpoint. But not everybody is thrilled with sending money via Zelle. So there's a process that's in place. I'm especially proud that we're going to take a collaborative approach in that process. But we do have some definitive deadlines that we've set forward, and we're making good progress already.
Thank you. So may I have a motion to accept the Pittsford External Audit Report response? Sarah and Kim. All in favor? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Next for your consideration is the adoption of the budget development calendar for the upcoming year. It's hard to believe that we just talked about the audit from the fiscal year end, but based on our schedule, we want to put this forward because by the time we have our next meeting, we'll already be engaged in sending out budget activities and information. So attached is the work sessions and everything and the due dates for the upcoming year for your review and approval.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the adoption of the budget development calendar for fiscal year 2025-2026? That's Emily and Kim. Thank you. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you.
Next for your consideration is a tax certiorari settlement, very similar to some discussions that we've had previously in some of the same areas. So this boils down to equalization rates dropping, not proportional for commercial property as compared to residential property. I do think that just for your consideration, this is a challenging topic. I think with one taxpayer, I spent really a lot of time this year explaining what's going on here. And so there's a balance of reevaluating and reassessing property, which we have no control over. There's a balance between doing that and what happens with the tax rate. Right now, this is another example of what's not happening from a commercial property standpoint. And there are other organizations that I see coming down that are facing the same thing. So the equalization rate has continued to drop consistently over the last 5 years. We have that data. Eventually, without intervention, that's going to cause more of these settlements. So we're going to need to reserve more funds in the reserves. There's nothing that we can do about it other than to encourage our local municipal partners to go out and do reevaluations. I shared a letter that the town of DeWitt supervisor actually sent to the community where he did a great job explaining that just because there's a reassessment doesn't mean you're going to pay more from a taxation standpoint. But when you do keep up with the assessments, these types of settlements will decrease because of the equalization between the property values. So this is concerning to me. I think it's very, very difficult to have this discussion. There's so many factors that are involved. So I am concerned, and I hope that going forward there's some changes that are made in terms of going through that process.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the tax certiorari document you reviewed? That would be Renee and Sarah. Thank you. Are there questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, none opposed. Thank you. That carries.
Okay, next for your consideration is the declaration of some scrap equipment.
Okay, may I have a motion to accept the declaration of scrap equipment? That's Emily and Dave. Okay, all in favor? None opposed. That carries.
And then there's bid awards on the consent agenda for your review.
Thank you.
And next I have just a brief discussion on electric buses and energy performance contract. We didn't have a chance to really talk too much about where we stand in terms of electric buses. I'm glad they came up. It came up a couple times tonight. We have an ongoing electric bus study. We hope to have the results of that study in December. During the initial process of that study, it was brought to our attention that we really need to start purchasing some electric buses now because there's limitations placed on how many gas or diesel buses that can be manufactured based on the sale of electric buses. So to just buy gas and diesel buses without an electric bus, we may not be able to get the buses that we like or need or want in that replacement process. There's a federal incentive that's out there right now, $255,000 for the bus. And if you get approval for the bus, then it brings approval for the charging station. So there are federal offsets right now to take advantage. My concern is if we don't take action now, which is why we had the study to begin with, that we'll be behind in 2027 in terms of charging stations, et cetera. So I have made, and I know this is very early October, but I have made a recommendation to Mr. Pirro that we consider buying or proposing one electric bus this year to pave the way for one electric charging station so that we can move forward and really use it on a trial basis, but more so from an infrastructure standpoint so that we can get moving in that direction. We really only technically have 2 cycles left from a voting standpoint before every bus we have to buy is going to be electric. So the idea would be to get one this year in the May vote, and then the following year maybe 1 or 2 additional with some additional charging stations.
Thank you. Do you have a question?
Just a question for you, Mike. Is that a federal grant opportunity to get
Yeah.
the buses at a discounted
It's
rate?
not. It's not a grant directly to us. It's a subsidy that goes to the manufacturer.
Okay.
So when we advertise the difference in the cost of the bus, it'll be less the incentive because those buses are somewhere in that $500,000 range compared to a regular school bus, which is about $175,000, $180,000 right now. So that offset, it's almost like two buses for one per se. So it's right now it's reasonable to take advantage of it. Then that unlocks the additional funds for the charging station offset.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that would get us started. And then also, you've got the transportation aid and or building aid that will come into that process as well, that factor.
Okay. Thank you.
Might be a little early on, but where do we foresee putting the charging stations? Like, how is that going to be incorporated?
Yeah, so again, that's why we have this study that's taking place. There's actually an open spot near one of our electrical poles where the power comes in. So they saw where the power comes in and where it comes out to the lot as it is. So we do have in a preliminary area worked out. But certainly we've got to, and that's the big question that comes from our transportation staff. I'm sure eventually will come from community members, but there's not adequate space for electric buses. And our facility is not adequate to handle the maintenance of the electric buses. So certainly as we look to our long-range facilities plan, that's something that we're going to have in advance planning for 8 to 10 years out to make sure that we have adequate space and room. And again, remember the mandate is by 2035, the whole fleet is made up of electric buses. There's no gas or diesel buses left at all. So we've got time, but we need to start now given the replacement cycle that we have.
Do you think there's a possibility the state would give extensions to districts? I mean, this is out of our hands, correct? This seems to be a very large ask of the state for even the smallest of districts, let alone the largest. So what are your thoughts on that possible extension?
I mean, I'm not hearing that in terms of the Association School Business Official briefings that we attend. I know that's a question that we ask quite a bit. We spent a lot of time at our Legislative Advocacy Day last February asking those questions. I think there's a lot of discussion about it. There's a lot of a lot of feeling that it makes sense, but I have not seen any actual action in that direction.
I think it's also important just to note that while we're doing our study, RG&E and NYSERDA are also doing their own studies to see what's feasible as far as the electric grid for this area and across the state, making all school buses electric feasible. The other possibility, we never know from one governor to the next what their legislation is going to be or their mandates are going to be. So between the two, it's a variable. So I personally feel that it's a soft 2035 deadline, but it could stick or it could change. So we need to plan for that date and go from there.
So as a follow-up to part one of the conversation on electric buses, there's our energy performance contract that we've been exploring. So I've got great news. We've surveyed almost all of our facilities. We actually spent today talking about what's in the capital project versus what would be in the energy performance contract in terms of lighting. We've identified heat pumps and chillers, which there's a huge savings, and there's also federal incentives for those items. Lighting, boiler controllers, optimizing temperature control in each of the areas, which I know is probably a very popular topic. And then Jeff Kimmer and his staff recently looked at the computer controls, the automation of those controls as part of this project. So a lot of energy saving measures. The project pays for itself. That's how it goes through. So between federal incentives, state aid, and energy savings, it's looking good. We're in the $10 to $12 million range. We're hoping to bring something back to the board in December, and then possible approval in January. So remember, an energy performance contract requires your approval, and then it can be submitted to the state education department. We have been looking at solar. We have some concerns. There are great subsidies out there, but we have concerns about where it would go. Today we talked about maybe doing a smaller project on Menden Center Elementary's roof, but then if you look at the structure and when it was built, and you look at snow load and wind load, there's other concerns. So I'm not sure that this round, I'm not sure we want to wait, and I'm not sure that this round will include solar, but we have been exploring solar as an option. So exciting news, I think at a time when budgets will be challenging in terms of foundation aid. Any energy savings that comes in place as we spend more in energy for electric buses, there could be an offset here. So, so it's I think it's coming along, and I think it's going to be a great project. So I just want to make sure that we give an update on where we stand, and then outline expectations in the board's role in the future. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Dusby. Next, we will have our Human Resources report. Mr. Clark.
Thank you and good evening. First, for your consideration, we have the professional staff report. We have one change in FTE, one part-time to probationary appointment, 5 school-related professional appointments, 1 administrator substitute appointment. We have 23 certificated staff resignations for retirement, totaling 571.4 years of service. We have 5 school-related professional resignations for retirement, totaling 93.3 years of service. We have 3 teacher resignations, 2 SRP resignations, 1 SRP termination. We have revised fall coaching salaries, and we have substitute approvals.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the professional staff report? Sarah and Renee. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
Thank you. Next, for your consideration, we have the support staff report. We have 10 clerical appointments, 2 clerical resignations, 3 transportation appointments, 2 transportation resignations, 1 custodial maintenance appointment, 1 custodial maintenance resignation, and we have 3 food service worker appointments.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the support staff report? Dave and Renee. All in favor? None opposed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, we have a memorandum of agreement on the consent agenda.
Thank you. And now we'll have our curriculum report from Ms. Clayton.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you some highlights of our 3rd through 8th grade assessment data from the 23-24 school year. So as you know from years past, we receive the scores from NYSED in August, and administrators are given their building aggregate data as well as their individual student data to review. Our standards leaders and teachers also are able to review aggregate data and individual student data to plan for any instructional implications for the coming year, as well as any implications we might have with RTI or AAS services as a result of the testing. So our total aggregate results, you can see up there. Just important to note, the Science 5 and Science 8 assessments were new this year. They were aligned to the next generation science standards. You'll hear me talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. They were quite rigorous. They involve 4 required investigations done in class, and then the test is 1 sitting. However, the 8th grade test is about 62 questions long, and the 5th grade test is about 46 questions long. And they've put released questions up on the state ed website. It's really worth a look to see the level of rigor in the assessment, the length, the amount of literacy, the cross-cutting concepts and the scientific practices and everything that's embedded in that assessment. It's really quite rigorous. So just some changes over the years. 2022-23 was the first year of our ELA and math aligned with the next gen standards. We did not have a Science 4 test last year because we were transitioning to the Science 5 test this year. This year was the new science assessments for grades 5 and 8. And we also went computer-based for all assessments, all grade levels this year. So the change for this year was 3rd and 4th grade, we're doing math computer-based, whereas the year before they had not. And our plan going into this school year is computer-based for all of our assessments again. Just some trends for you to take a look at. So in ELA, we saw increases in grades 3, 4, 6, and 8. Grade 7 stayed the same. Grade 5 we saw go down, and it actually went down across the county. We had a negative 5.9% dip in those scores. And from what I can tell, the Lexile levels were all 5th grade with that assessment, but there were some challenging passages that I think were harder for kids in terms of vocabulary, prior knowledge, genres that the texts were written in. It didn't seem to be quite as relatable as the 4th grade assessment, so that may have been one piece that contributed to that. There were also 4-point constructed response questions on that as well. It was just a much more rigorous constructed test as evidenced by the results across the county. Just to take a look at our proficiency levels, we're always striving to raise our level 4s in the maroon. We do well overall with our proficiency scores, but we'd like to see more in that excelling range. And we are celebrating in 8th grade ELA the 53% of level 4 for that, and also 36% in the grade 7 ELA. So when you look at our county comparisons, if you look at the ELA 5, you can see kind of across the county what that assessment looked like. I think we were surprised initially by the results, and then as we dug a little deeper in what other area districts were also kind of discovering, it seemed to be a common trend as we went across the county. I don't know if there's a little bit of relief in that, but we also know that there's work to be done in that area. And if you see 6, 7, and 8, we're right there close to District 5. Math, we saw increases in math as well in some of our grade levels. And then in some areas, we saw a bit of a dip. So at 3rd and 4th grade, we saw a decline, or I'm sorry, 3rd and 5th grade, we saw a decline in our math scores, whereas we saw increases in proficiency at grades 6, 7, and 8, and 4 stayed the same. Again, we saw that 5th grade was tricky across the county, and a wondering as 3rd grade was taking math computer-based for the first time. So just a wondering about what that was like in terms of students being able to show their work on a device when it's new to them. Computer-based testing is new, state testing is new, next-gen standards are new, so that may have been a contributing factor for that. Again, you see our levels of performance, and we're looking to raise those level 4s with Excel. And you see a big difference between our grade 7 math and our grade 8 math in terms of the number of kids achieving at a level 4. So here's our county comparisons again. So as you can see, now we're a little bit ahead of District 5. So we did a little switcheroo with them from the ELA, but very close in terms of our results. Still doing well across the county, but looking to raise those proficiency rates. Science, this is difficult to compare because we had the 4th and 8th grade assessments that were very different. There was actually a performance portion to that assessment that was very hands-on that the kids did as a part of the testing period. And the written was not nearly as rigorous or as long as what we saw with the new assessment. So having watched as an elementary principal 5th graders take this exam, it was easily 2 to 3 hours of brain time, and they really showed a lot of stamina and productive struggle as they encountered that test. But again, demanding of them in terms of scientific practices, cross-cutting concepts, disciplinary vocabulary, lots and lots of text features, graphs, line plots, maps, charts. They have things on the assessment where they have to actually drag and drop items into stimuli that's on the test. They have to create graphs right on the test. They have to use text and stimuli to answer a series of questions. There were short answer responses and multiple choice, and they were all kind of interwoven. So yeah, I think you can imagine for 8th grade, the 62 question assessment. I know the state is taking feedback. From what we've heard at BOCES, that the state may consider our feedback in terms of the readability of the passages and the level, but the length may not change until 2026. But they are definitely hearing the feedback about just the rigor and the challenge with the assessment as seen across the county as well. Our opt-out rates continue to be trending similar to years past. We seem to have more opt-outs at the middle school level than we do at the elementary level. We tend to see more in ELA than we do in math as well. So a little bit less in math, and in science, we're seeing low numbers, but I'm wondering with this new assessment if that will potentially shift because of the really, really rigorous ELA demands with that assessment. We'll continue to review the performance of all the groups. Thank you to Jeff and his data team for assembling all of the data and the workbooks that you have, putting together this PowerPoint. You have extra slides as well. So we'll be looking at all of our subgroups, considering things like our general education and our special education, our ethnicity, our socioeconomic status, our students who are ELLs, and just looking at all of those subgroups in addition to our overall proficiency and mastery. We're doing that as instructional leaders in the building with all of our district teams, and our standards leaders are also really dipping into it with their departments and also grade levels. looking at a lot of targeted professional development. There were a lot of inquiry-based questions on the science assessment, and I really wanted to point that out at elementary because we do have social studies inquiries now at elementary. So we're beginning to see those curricular connections become more and more apparent, and we're learning that to accomplish the load that elementary teachers have, they really need to have a lot of curriculum integration and seeing some overlap between the content that they're teaching. So we'll continue to use these results to inform our curriculum and assessment development and our acquisition of resources. Yeah. Sure.
Good evening. One item for board action this evening is a resolution to appoint an impartial hearing officer. Thank you. And our committee for special education and preschool special education recommendations are on the consent agenda.
Thank you. There is a need for an executive session to discuss the discipline of a particular person.
Is there a motion to accept the call for the executive session? Second. Dave? All in favor? None opposed.
I am going to ask for an amended field trip approval. This was just a day off the original dates for your consideration.
May I have a motion to accept the amended field trip approval to Montreal, Canada?
So moved.
That's Renee and Kim is the second. All in favor? None opposed. Thank you.
And for your consideration is a field trip from Mendon High School, DECA, to Anaheim, California.
May I have a motion to approve the field trip to Anaheim, California? Becca? That's Sarah and Renee. All in favor? None opposed.
It's amazing how quickly we run out of our Student Opportunity Fund every year. We have more students in need than one may think, and the amount that we give to students in part is really appreciated from our school foundation. So also of note on the consent agenda is a donation of $2,000 from our Pittsford Education Foundation. I will conclude with just sharing for board appreciation, just a few words. It's really amazing how special our Board of Education is, and it's one of those things where you don't know unless you see the gamut of what happens around the state or the country, or unless you work intimately with our school board members. So tonight is Sarah's birthday. She is here at the board meeting to celebrate her birthday. Emily called at 6 o'clock saying her car was dead in Rochester and she doesn't know how she's going to get here. So I have not had a chance to follow up with her, but she's here tonight. The commitment, obviously, in years past, I've shared all of the hours that these volunteer board members contribute. From school visits to county meetings. Last week we had a board retreat that went from 4 to 5:30 to talk about cell phones and capital project, and then from 5:30 to 9, Robin and Sarah and I went to another meeting. So the nights are amazing. The time that they spend is amazing. But what's more amazing to me is when we meet in the spring and in the summer, it's about reflections of how well they feel they performed, and looking at not only anecdotal data from the year, but looking at exit polls and then setting goals for themselves, and being really hard on one another as far as a unit, and creating best practices for our own Board of Education, and how they are able to represent the community in a real positive way. So for that and more, so much more, I really can't thank you enough for your professionalism, for your care, for your support, for your passion, and all right, I have to go a little bit further. So the amount of nights that we spend talking about individual students or things that happen in school, and the replies and the concern and the discussion, and how to do this right for kids, how to do what's right for staff, how to do what's right for the community. You're so open-minded, you're so thoughtful, you're so compassionate, and I want the community to hear that. So thank you for being who you are. I really appreciate it. So as a token of my gift for you, I don't know if you're going to like it at all, but I tried something new with our athletic director in trying to get rid of the concern about wearing Sutherland or Mendon. And so my wife saw it. I don't know if she liked it, but it's the thought that counts. So in your bags, you have bags by your seats. You do have something to represent the combined Pittsford. Yes. Well, it wasn't me unless you like it. It's a one of a kind. All right, good. There we go. Great. Okay. So in close, thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you do for the community. It's been a pleasure to be able to see firsthand how much each of you care for our students and staff and parents and community members. So thank you.
Your design's pretty awesome.
P.S. Monroe County School Boards Association thanks each of you for your dedication and hard work as a Board of Education member. Your selfless service makes a meaningful difference in the lives of our local students. Thank you for helping us recognize school board members across Monroe County, and that is from Team MCSBA. And they are, according to Amy Thomas, you will have airfare to a place of your choice very soon. Oh, is this for everyone? This is for, what am I doing? Oh, and so there's a gift for everyone in here.
Thank you very much for Thomas and those folks.
And you have your own notebooks.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much. Sticky notes, too.
One. And sticky notes, yes. Not to be used for superintendent evaluations. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Oh, thank you. We added a board retreat to occur on November 12th coming up. So that it's a continuation of our October board retreat. So we look.
Quick question. So we received an email today asking us to be here by 6:30. So do we need to start the retreat half an hour earlier?
No, we will already be here, and so that'll work just fine. Okay, because the agenda wasn't that complete, we would have had a little free time in the end. So
So it's a 5 p.m. to 6:30. We'll be done here. Okay.
we'll just break off and we'll be flexible in seeing where we are at that time. But we're going to take the picture at 6:30 because we're already here. It's going to be perfect. Thank you. And yes, we brought that to Deb's attention and we worked it out. So thank you. Next we have, is there any other additional new business?
I have one thing, just to remind everybody that Super Sale donation drop-offs are tomorrow at Nazareth between 9 a.m. and noon, and also between 4 p.m. and 7. Same thing on Thursday. All staff, just bring your ID badge on Friday from 3 to 8 for the pre-sale. Also, anyone volunteering for Super Sale also is welcome to shop at the pre-sale. And then the public sale is on Saturday. It's from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. And then on Sunday, 9 to 2 is 50% off, and then 2 to 8, it's make a deal. So support the Pittsford PTSA. Come shop at Super Sale. It's at Nazareth, so check out the new digs this year. And thanks everybody for your support.
Thank you so much, Kim. So next we have public comment. And is Mr. Villa present? Thank you.
Hi there, everyone. It's actually pronounced Vi. I don't know why my parents did that to me.
Okay.
But I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm here as a concerned parent to bring your attention to an urgent matter affecting elementary students with physical disabilities in our district. Recently, I discovered that children have not been receiving the physical therapy outlined in their IEP. Parents were not informed proactively. I found out only after reaching out to the school. After a period of intense miscommunication, I learned that the lack of a qualified physical therapist was the reason for this gap in services. I understand the challenge. The skilled labor shortage is very real. I took it upon myself to find a solution. I located a qualified physical therapist willing to work with this district. Despite that, the district chose not to hire her, preferring to continue attempting to contract through BOCES, even though BOCES currently has no available therapists. It's been nearly a month since I first reached out, and still no start date for therapy has been identified. This delay isn't just a scheduling oversight. It directly impacts the ability of children to fully benefit from their education. The services specified in an IEP are not optional. They are legally mandated supports that the district is obligated to provide. Legally and financially, this exposes the district to serious repercussions. But beyond the legalities, there are profound moral and ethical implications. Every child deserves equitable access to education. By not providing these services, we are failing vulnerable children and the principles of inclusivity and equity that we espouse. So our vision statement, as an educational leader with uncompromising commitment and passion for excellence, Pittsford Central Schools will deliver quality programs and services that maximize academic performance and personal development and provide for each child's future success. I urge you, take immediate action to rectify this situation. The priority must be ensuring that all students receive the services they are entitled to without further delay, even if it means considering options outside of BOCES that might be more costly. Maximize their academic performance and personal development. Provide for their future success. Thank you.
But before I reply to that, thank you for coming in tonight. I don't know how you raise two children that could sit through this board meeting and be so well behaved. So whatever tips you have, you could throw them all of our way. It's amazing. So hats off to the kids that are with you. So thank you for that. I also appreciate your comments and know that we are short one FTE, full-time equivalent for PT. I believe we're close or there to hiring someone, and we will certainly backfill all of the missed services. So, for example, if your child had 2 days a week of PT, then we would work with you to make that 3 days a week for PT until that's caught up. So we will do our best. There certainly is a staff shortage. I do appreciate you thinking outside the box. I appreciate you advocating, and you're doing a great job as a dad and a parent, and appreciate our partnership. So thank you.
Now may I have a motion for adjournment? Thank you. That would be Kim and Emily. All in favor? None opposed. The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.